Do you do Zone 2 workouts? Do you also add some intervals and strength training into the mix, like you know you should? Well, how should you plan that out over time? Well, that's the subject of today's video, how to plan and balance your training using Zone 2 as the base and adding strength training and intervals on top of that. Hey everyone, it's Mark, and we are back with another video that's all about how to plan your training around Zone 2 while integrating the two additional important components of strength training and intervals. I'm going to use myself and my planned fourth quarter of 2022 training as an example of how you might want to think about planning your own training. Now, I'll share my thought process around the idea of longer term planning, show you my goals for the rest of this year, and go over a free spreadsheet I built that you can use to plan and track your own training. So let's dig into it. Okay, the benefits of Zone 2 training are becoming more and more evident every day. And the interest in Zone 2 training is gaining momentum very quickly. Now this is great, but a training program of just Zone 2 would be suboptimal, to say the least, especially if we are looking to improve the odds of living healthier later into life. So a well-rounded training program can use Zone 2 as the base, but should also include regular strength training as well as some interval and sprint training. So if that's the case, how should we be thinking about building a comprehensive Zone 2 based training program? What basic concepts might we want to follow, and how do we divide our training up to fit into that framework? Now, to demonstrate how you might want to think about this, I'm going to use myself as the example, specifically how I'm thinking at this point of planning my training through the rest of this year. Now, remember, these are just my thoughts, not anyone else's, so take all of this in, but be sure to apply it to your own specific situation. I'm not a medical professional or coach, and I've never been one. I'm just a guy who likes to use Zone 2 training as part of what I do. That being said, here's how I currently approach my weekly training at a base level. 1, do 3 to 5 Zone 2 sessions each week. 2, 1 to 2 Zone 4 to 5 sessions. 2 to 3 strength training sessions each week, a bare minimum of 2 hours in Zone 2. Now in my training, most weeks are more than that. Doing daily stability and mobility work, no back-to-back hard days, and a deload or rest week every 3 to 5 weeks along the way. From there, I decide what time frame I want to use to get more specific about and any particular goals I might have, and I begin to build out a framework for what specific weeks might look like over that period, taking into account the goals I have. Now, I find that planning on a quarterly basis, roughly every 3 months, seems to work well for me. You might have a different schedule that works for you. So I grab a calendar and I start sketching out what the next 12 weeks will look like. First, I add any goal, events, races, or workouts that I want to concentrate on. These are what everything else is built around. Next, I decide what I need or want to work on in order to help me towards those specific goals. Things like race-specific workouts, fitness checks, and taper or rest weeks come into the picture here. Then, I build out each week with the following objectives. 1, a minimum of 80% cardio in Zone 2 and the rest in Zone 3, 4, or 5. Think of intervals, threshold, VO2 max, etc. Next, where will those Zone 3, 4, and 5 workouts, where will they be within the week and for how long? After I figure out where the zone intervals will be, I want to make sure that I have no more than a 10% gain in total volume on a week-to-week basis. The other thing I want to do is to make sure I add a deload week once every 3 to 5 weeks, even while I'm training for a specific race. More and more important, especially as we get older. We need to give our bodies time to rest. At the end of all that, I'll have a pretty solid roadmap on what I will be doing from a week-to-week basis. Then it's time to get a little more specific on the exact workouts. Now that's beyond the scope of this video. I probably will do one about that in the future. So if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe and click the bell for notifications to know when I do release that video. And then once I've sketched out those weeks and those individual workouts, it's time to track the actual weeks against the plan, making any adjustments that are needed based on the results that have happened and anything else I need to do to get back on track or change track if needed. So let's take a look at what my fourth quarter 2022 training plan is looking like based on the above factors. Okay, let's take a look at the spreadsheet I put together to help me track my Zone 2 training, strength training, and interval training. And I'll post a link to the spreadsheet in the description below. So if you're interested in downloading this spreadsheet to try out for yourself, you're more than welcome to do so. See if it might work for you as well. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the spreadsheet. Okay, here is the spreadsheet that I put together to help me track my Zone 2 training, interval training, and strength training. You will see that I have a couple columns over here on the left. One is called the weekend column. The other one is note column. So weekend is just weekending on Sunday. So this last week, I'm recording this on September 26th. So the last week ended on September 25th. And the note column is where I've just put a space for me to put in specific things that I want to achieve in that particular week. So I've got 4 highlighted here. First one I want to do is a time trial, a 5K time trial coming up this weekend, October 1st. And then there's a 5K race that I want to run at the end of October on the 29th. It's called the MAD 5K, and it finishes in Mercedes-Benz Stadium here in Atlanta. So that's a fun race. You get a finish on the 50-yard line of the stadium. And I haven't been on there in a few years since I retired from the NFL as my pro lineman career. So that's always a fun 5K to run. And then I've put a couple of indoor bike-oriented goals. Within the world of ZWIFT, there is a climb called Alp de ZWIFT. And I'm going to try to reach a personal record climbing up this climb. It's about a 1-hour hard ride. I've set aside on November 23rd and December 21st. So those are my goals. And across the top, you've got a column for each day of the week. I've got it zoomed in here. So it goes all the way Monday through Sunday. And then under each day, I've got 3 separate columns where I can put in Zone 2, interval, or strength training. And this is in minutes. So the goal is, like I said, to do a minimum of 2 hours of Zone 2 every week, even on deload weeks, and then integrate in the intervals as well as the strength training. So I figured the best way to do that is to just measure total time or minutes. So that's why I have the columns set up the way I do. So the columns are set up that way, and this last week I've kind of had planned out, and then I've done estimated, or what my plan is for minutes for each of these days through the end of the year, the week ending January 8th, 2023. So first week of 2023. And you will see that on the right side of the sheet, which is the planned sheet down here at the bottom, I've got the planned activities, and I've got another sheet called actual, and then a comparison, plan versus actual, which gives me an idea of how I actually did compared to what I thought I would do or what I wanted to do. Let's go back to the plan sheet, and you'll see that for the week ending here 9/25, I have things totaled up, and it automatically totals up. All these are calculated over here, and just based off of the totaling up the time in each activity and each zone. So you will see if I'm following the rule of no more than about 10% or so increase each week, I've got total time over here, over there, and I try to keep that within total time, not increasing more than 10%. These weeks that are in gray, like you see here, week ending 10/23, 11/20, those are the deload weeks, the weeks that I've built into my plan to just scale back a little bit, dial back the intensity a little bit, and give my body time to recover. Not completely stop working or training, but to just dial back the intensity a little bit. So you will see that the zone 2 goes back a little bit. You see 40 in this one, the week before 25. But the thing that really that I try to adjust on these deload weeks is to reduce the amount of minutes I'm doing in intervals. So you will see that. Let's take a look here. Just to reduce the amount of minutes in intervals. So I will go from 15 one week on Thursday intervals down to 2 minutes of intervals. So just reducing it down to make it a lot more less stressful on the body and focus on just easy zone 2 as compared to doing intervals. So on the plan sheet, you'll see a column has total cardio in minutes, zone 2 as a percentage. So you can see I'm planning to still stay well above 80%, and on the deload weeks, I'm looking at 95, 98% zone 2. Okay, strength training here, and then it has totals up total hours of training for the week. Then the actual tab, next tab over, is where I track what I actually did on each week. So since I just started here last week, I only have one row of numbers in the actual tab so far. And you will see that for the week ending 9/25, I ended up with 239 minutes zone 2, which was just under 4 hours, 32 minutes of intervals, total cardio 271 minutes. That's 88% zone 2. I did 105 minutes of strength and a total of 6.27 hours. So I just fill in each week as I finish up the week. I take a look at the actual minute breakdown by zone off of Final Surge, which I talked about in a previous video on planning and tracking my training. So I use Final Surge to gather all the information from my watch and heart rate monitor, and then I can calculate total minutes. So I fill in each week as I go, and hopefully those fill out according to plan. And then the last tab is plan versus actual. So I've got a summary of all my planned minutes, which is just copied over from the planned tab, and then actual, where I've only got one row filled in at this point, and then gives a quick comparison to see how I did. Total time, zone 2, last week was 102% of what I planned, a little higher on total hours. Intervals was a little higher. I did a little bit more intervals than I thought I would do. I felt good, so I went a little bit farther. But the calculated zone 2 percentage is still very, very high. So I'm keeping that balance of primarily zone 2, at least 80%, and then the rest intervals. So there you go. This spreadsheet, like I said, will be a link to the spreadsheet will be posted in the description below. Feel free to copy and use it on your own version of Google Sheets, or you can import it, I think, into Excel and all those types of things. I can't give support on the spreadsheet, but you can probably use it to at least get started planning your zone 2 strength and interval training in a little bit more logical and straightforward fashion. Okay, there you have it. The next 12 weeks of training all planned out. Hopefully everything goes according to plan, but if history is any indicator, it's not going to go 100% to plan. So there's always the ability to change the training if necessary. I know it'll probably happen to me, and it probably happens to you as well. So just be flexible in your training overall. Be sure to check the description below for the link to the spreadsheet that I went over. It's a rough template. It works pretty well. Feel free to use it as is or modify it to fit your own needs. Unfortunately, I can't provide technical support on spreadsheets, so hopefully you find it helpful. I think you will. And if you want to follow my training, be sure to follow me on Strava. That's the best way to see what I'm doing on a week-to-week basis. basis. You can click the link there. Strava is free to join, and you can follow me on Strava if you want. If you're not already a subscriber, thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of the community. Go ahead and click that bell for notifications, and go ahead and nudge that thumbs up button. That is a great way to help YouTube spread the word about what we are doing here on the channel to more and more people. And hope you found that helpful. Good luck in your training. Let me know in the comments what you are doing for your training for the rest of 2022. Do you have a specific plan? What are your goals? That type of thing. I'd be happy to respond and have a conversation about that. So be sure to leave a comment. And until next time, thanks for watching, and be well.